Welcome back to CBS This Morning. As we cover the 51st Earth Day here at CBS News, you've probably noticed that a lot of the world is covered in pavement, and that's creating a problem whenever it rains. Take a look at the blue areas on this map right here. It's where we find places where the rain cannot be absorbed into the ground where it falls. Instead, it runs off the pavement and into nearby waterways, carrying pollutants like fertilizer, oil, pesticides, and bacteria. In many places, it also forces raw sewage to spill into the water. But there is good news we're happy to report. We found a lot of people working to fix this problem. On a windy day north of New York City,
this is a magnificent, majestic river.
John Lipscomb helped a certain landlubber understand the life of his favorite waterway.
One thing I cannot figure out is is the water flowing that way or that way?
Right now, it's going that way.
As a member of the environmental group Riverkeeper, Lipscomb has been patrolling the Hudson River for decades, marveling as salt water from the ocean flows up, but also worrying about what's flowing in every time it rains.
Bottle caps, cigarette butt, you name it. That's a visual indicator of what the stormwater has carried off the streets into the river.
But it's what we can't see that's the bigger concern. We watched as Columbia University researcher Elise Myers took samples nearby.
When we have a lot of these areas where the water just runs straight off, it can carry whatever's on here. So trash, but also chemicals and things like that. And in urban areas where you have that high concentration, definitely something to be worried about.
The EPA calls polluted runoff one of the greatest threats to clean water. Here on the Hudson,
marshes are really critical to ecosystems. I mean, when we think about wetlands in general,
Myers had us standing ankle deep in something you can describe with one word or many.
But here, I'm seeing a lot of bacteria that usually we only find inside the guts of warm-blooded animals like ourselves. And so when we find them in the water, it's an indication that we have some sort of sewage contamination.
What you're telling me is the toilets have a way of ending up, at least in part, here.
Yes, unfortunately, there's definitely a way that something you have flushed down, some of those bacteria can end up out here.
She says rain can overwhelm sewage treatment plants, and in nearly 800 cities across the U.S., raw sewage overflows into the water by design in a downpour. Those cities have what are known as combined sewer systems, where the stuff that goes down our drains at home mixes with the stuff that washes off our streets. When it rains, instead of backing up into our homes, those systems can release a mix of sewage and polluted stormwater. And as we traveled down into New York City, John Lipscomb of Riverkeeper showed us some of the hundreds of points in this area alone where sewage enters the water.
That opening under the wall there, that's a combined sewer overflow.
They have a sign up that says caution.
It's permitted. The city has said this is what we must do because we can't do better, and the state okays it. Those are state permits, and the EPA knows it, and the EPA is, of course, the federal agency that oversees all the states.
So at every level of government, this is not a secret.
Not a secret.
Why is it not a scandal?
Because most people don't know about it.
Yet it is something the New York City Department of Environmental Protection is working to address.
Look at that.
Deputy Commissioner Angela Licata showed how the city is trying to keep water out of the system with surfaces that can absorb more of it into the ground.
This synthetic turf here is designed to hold about 1 million gallons of stormwater a year.
So without these changes, all of that would have run over the regular old road and ended up in the drains.
Exactly.
The city is also redirecting stormwater into thousands of tiny rain gardens designed to soak up runoff. And it's built massive tanks that can hold tens of millions of gallons of sewage that would otherwise spill into the water. It's spent billions on these projects and seen some results. The amount of combined sewage overflow has dropped 26% since 2008 and more than 80% since the 1980s.
It's been a tremendous improvement. Now it's finishing the job.
It's clean enough now for many here to get out and enjoy it, at least in dry weather.
How was the water?
So much fun.
But even if it doesn't make you sick,
couldn't say anything bad about it. We definitely got hit and sprayed a lot.
Finding out that 20 billion gallons of sewage still gets released here every year could make anyone think twice.
Is 20 billion good enough for you guys?
Could be better. 20 billion sounds like a lot.
So as environmental leaders figure out how to stop toxins from entering the water,
So we're heading over to our oyster reef cabinets.
people like Rabina Taliaferro are working on a way to clean up what's already here. She's part of the Billion Oyster Project, installing oyster reefs in New York Harbor.
What they do is they help clear the water.
A single adult oyster can filter 50 gallons of water every day.
They will pull out of the water those particles, those things.
The you know what.
Yes, the you know what. So they will pull that and actually create like a casing and drop it to the bottom of the water column.
So they help.
They help to a certain degree.
But John Lipscomb says a complete fix will require more money, and that means more pressure from the public.
We've got a vehicle driving around on Mars right now, and we've walked on the moon. Don't tell me this can't be done.
He makes a good point.
He makes a good point.
I feel his passion.
He's got a lot of passion. But here's the problem: all the cities that have been built in America, you can't just lift them up on a crane and change all the plumbing.
Yes.
And that's the issue. It would cost billions of dollars to do it, and it's all funded by sewer and water rates, which have been going up, and people can't afford them.
Right.
So we're stuck.
I'm encouraged that we've come as far as we have. I didn't realize we'd made that much progress.
But $20 billion is still a lot here in New York, and it's billions in other cities as well.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking that every time you flush your toilet, where that stuff goes.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
You just don't think that it. I didn't know where it went to.
It's
tell you
when
the
it
truth.
rains, they have a choice. It either backs up into your home, which no one wants,
You don't
or
want that.
it goes out into the water.
No, I don't want that.
No.